I own a multi-line agency where we do everything from auto, home, commercial ag, life, and definitely the annuities.
I kind of wanted to pick that apart a little bit first, the psychology of this whole aspect, because as we all know, this is a very emotional decision for people. It's not a numbers game to them. It is their retirement.
I've done my homework, know what I'm talking about.
This isn't working for me.
I always transition my phone call on the annuities. I always bring up life insurance as well, just to see where they're at with that as well.
Everybody's always looking for some sort of quirky way or attention grabbing way to either message or call these people.
I don't spend a lot of time going back after those individuals just because I have enough people booking a point with me already.
Today, I brought along Jon Ianniello. He has been with us. He's a little seasoned. So I wanted to kind of check in with him again and see how things have progressed, see kind of any things that he's run into as he has moved in further into our campaign and challenges that he's dealt with. First, since it's been a minute, Jon, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the group.
I'm Jon Ianniello, of course, and I'm located in Central Ohio. I own a multi-line agency where we do everything from auto, home, commercial ag, life, and definitely the annuities. I do just a little bit more than the annuities as the agency owner. That has become my primary focus, while I allow the staff to kind of handle some of the other stuff. So, and I've been with Vroom for almost, I think, just about a year.
And you have a really great kind of, I guess, like I was noting earlier, a great vibe. You know, every time you and I chat, it's always like just a positive, uplifting conversation. And I feel like that is probably a really good translation to how you relate and communicate with your leads and stuff. So I kind of wanted to pick that apart a little bit first.
Sure.
You know, the psychology of this whole aspect, because as we all know, you know, this is a very emotional decision for people. It's not a numbers game to them. It is their retirement. It's their future, their security. So understanding that you guys as agents care about what it is they're trying to attain, what goals they have, what concerns they have, as we all know, is a big part of this whole thing. So out the gate, what are some of the things when you think about this from a psychological perspective that you kind of ensure you bring to the table when you hop on a call with a lead?
Well, I mean, definitely I come with confidence. I've done my homework, know what I'm talking about. But I think it's also more than that. I mean, if you aren't excitable to help the client, they're going to see that. You don't want to be fake about it, but if you're dull on the phone, if you're not excitable to help the individual, I think they're going to see through that. And you got to make it personalized for the individual. There is something to be said about having a little bit of small chat and kind of getting to know your client on the phone before you really start getting down to business, so to say. That's kind of how I deal with that. And I mean, it definitely brings along, you know, a personal aspect.
Have you ever had a moment where that either deterred the lead in any way, or do you put any limitations on how much you kind of dive into that personal aspect of relating to them on any level?
I kind of let the conversation kind of guide itself. I mean, definitely no politics, none of that stuff. I mean, by any means. If they want to talk politics, I just kind of let them do it, but I don't interject my own, no opinions. If they start getting into politics, I usually steer it right towards the market. Say, well, it doesn't matter who's going to be coming up in the next election or the next politics. We know historically from a standpoint that when there's an election year, the market is going to have some volatility, and I always steer it back to that. Sometimes it's about redirecting when it comes to that kind of, and getting back to, you know, what we're really here to talk about.
So you've been with us for a year now, around about, and, you know, I'm sure you've seen some ups and downs. It's not always an exact science, and, you know, we have to kind of move and groove with the conversation, what the, you know, hot topics are out there, and avoiding certain topics, as you said. Have you ever come across in this past year where you're like, this isn't working for me, whether it's your process, your approach, like anything that just said, hey, this is a problem, and you've had to kind of stop yourself? And what did that look like in the transition into kind of fixing that?
I really haven't seen as many hiccups as when I initially got started. I mean, it took me a little while to get comfortable with it and get started. There for a while, I did the annuity and the life insurance one. The life insurance was good, but I found myself getting a little to the point, especially when I was doing it myself, a little overwhelmed keeping up with the phone calls. And of course, honestly, I was making more money. Not that I wasn't making money off of the life side of things, but I transitioned back into going more into the annuities just because, I mean, the ROI is just a little bit better. I mean, you're getting a little bit more on the commission side. So that was just kind of what I said. So I kind of scaled back on the life insurance so I could kind of handle it. You got to understand, I'm doing a multi-line agency, so I might be out on, a $45,000 or $50,000 farm one day and then talking life and annuities with someone, the following day.
I know you had noted in the beginning, it took you some moving and grooving to figure out, your flow in this whole process and getting comfortable with the whole thing. And then on top of that, you did add the IULs. So it was like ready to go, like Mr. Positivity, I'll take it all. Let's run with it. But then it came back to sit down for a second and make sure I could do this in a healthy manner and get my return out of it and grow my business. What are some things that when you were starting out that could benefit some of these other guys?
Basically, starting off is I talked too much. So sometimes you can talk a little too much to your client and not allow them to give the feedback. And like you just mentioned, have an opening question. I mean, the very first question I'll ask them as we start to transition from, kind of like small talk, the first question I ask them is that, listen, you clicked on the ad. It's obvious you have some concerns. What are your concerns? And so that's actually going to determine what I bring up to them. I'm worried about my taxes, and that's their main concern. I know I'm going to have RMDs in the future. How do I convert this? How do I get this to a raw situation so I don't have to worry about paying all these high taxes later in life? And he realizes that. So, we're working out a plan for him on that particular issue. Like I said, it's about listening to the client. What is their main concern? And then I always ask him, well, what other concerns do you have? He's worried about volatility. Hey, I got the perfect product for you. It's an annuity. And then they start asking questions about that. And, I just give them a rundown of basically 3 or 4 bullet points of it and allow them to ask the question.
So you don't go too much into the product until it's time to really sit down and start an application and looking into that?
I don't even talk about taking an application or anything unless they're so desperate that they want to do one right then. I'll transition it in and make it, say, hey, give me some time and then I'll give you a call back here in a few minutes, because I don't even have that part of it up to collect the information. I mean, when I'm collecting information, all I'm getting from the initial phone call is your name and birthday to run some illustration.
How do you walk them through a presentation? Is this because that's a mixed bag too, and I think we might have touched on this before, but some people are like, I don't even show them anything. Some people are like, I'm the face of the presentation until I need to show them a number really quick. I show that and then they dip it out of the way. Some of them are like, here, I'll send it out, and I do well with that. So what do you see kind of working best for you when it comes to the illustrations and showing them the details of the product?
I go prepared with the illustrations in the third meeting in case they want to see them. I'd say a lot of times they want to glance at it and I'll explain it to them, but they're not as interested in that illustration as the concept. A lot of them, especially when I'm illustrating conversion fact, they want to see the money coming out and where's it going, and they want to see it going into that other account. I've had them glance at it and they're like, hey, sounds good, let's just take the application out. That illustration can be a crutch, but sometimes they might need the crutch more than what I do, and they just want to look at it to reassure themselves and just take a quick glance. But most of my annuities have been sold more on the concept.
So one of the other things I wanted to tap is your kind of contact structure, getting these people to pick up and having that initial conversation, an opportunity to educate them and get them, moving in a forward direction. For those people that don't self-book appointments and you're taking some time to make dials and all that stuff, what do you see has been most successful for you in your contact structure?
Like, honestly, I've just newly back this week. I've already had 6 appointments booked. So the ones that don't book with me, I'll call them once, slide it over to, hey, I contacted them. I'll put them over there in that, hey, I need to follow up. I might give it a few days. I allow the cycle to happen. They're getting emails, they're getting text, and I might give them one more phone call in about a week.
We're getting closer towards the end. Kind of run through the things that I kind of wanted to pick your brain about. I do want to kind of just get like an overview again from that season perspective. If there were like 2 or 3 things that you could leave new agents coming into our campaigns or agents that have just started with, like just insightful thoughts of this is what you should focus on, or this is what you should address. Like, is there anything like that that you can leave these guys with?
I would say definitely get comfortable with the concept, of securing an individual's retirement. Example, I'm getting good with the concepts now, the Roth conversions. You want to get good at those concepts and highlight the concept. I always tell people on the concept, not necessarily on an illustration. I never give the illustration out. It's proprietary information. I tell them, say, this illustration may not be good tomorrow, so this does no good for you. So never give the illustrations out. And like I said, just keep going after the concept. Listen to your client and address their concern. That's as simple what it is. I don't spend a lot of time going back after those individuals just because I have enough people booking a point with me already.